Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal. The journey continues today on February 20th, 2023 at approximately 4:17 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, now I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools I personally live by, and the philosophies of life that I talk about are the ones I personally live by. Okay, this is not a question of my telling you, let's listen to what I have to say and do what I tell you. This is what I'm personally doing. And Maggie, you are in with the gold. I've long listened to people. I've long heard people talk about what they should do and what they've been told they should do. And almost invariably, when somebody says you should do this, it's that person's, it's the speaker's in the speaker's interpretation of what should be done. Okay. Now, Joe, how we doing? You've come in with the silver. Let me see something here because I got a problem. I've always got a problem. There we are. Now I can actually read. The reality of it is that everybody knows of the law of attraction. Okay, now I call it karmic law. You call it the law of attraction. Some people call it the secret. Okay. And I love the ones that say this is the last tool you'll ever require because that's a lead up to another one. Okay. I'm not going to tell you this is the only way to do it. I'll tell you right now. If you're listening, it means you're still searching something for some method that makes sense, some method that twigs something in you to make it happen. Now, we've talked about there are a lot of ways of enhancing attraction. And I will get into it. I'm just, like I said, I'm a little early, which gives me a chance to get a little mobilized. Oh, since you guys are in here already, we've got the law of attraction today. Tomorrow, we will be dealing with orbs. And on the 22nd, we are going to take a look at different healing modalities. And quite frankly, the link between them. All in all, there's a lot of change that can happen. There's a lot of things that can be done to really bolster the way you do things. Now, while I was puttering around today, we got Dogface. How are we doing? And you have Dogface. You have come in with the bronze. One of the big things I did was I've got a couple of, I'm a firm believer the lists work like a charm. So right here, I've got a list that tells me what I'm working with in the way of streams, of topics on the streams. And that's where you guys come in. Okay. So, which reminds me, take that, put that there for a second. And I take this because we are working on the orbs are already, we're dealing with, where are we? Law of attraction, we're set up right now. Orbs is already scheduled. And the healing modalities is now scheduled. Okay. So I am striving to take, where are we here? We are striving to get things moving in the right direction. Take your guys' suggestions, such as getting planned 2 or 3 days ahead of time. But I've got I won't have any shortage of topics in pretty short order here. On this list, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've already got 8 topics on this list to mix and match as I go along. Okay, bearing in mind Sundays is just going to be left as an open forum, followed by the reading of the Yldrbac excerpts. And I just heard from my artist down in Texas that we've got a meeting after this show to get things moving on the next five pictures. There we go. Drew a blank on the name. That's always fun. But I've got that one list, and then I've got this neat little list here that has one of the things that's going to happen with the second printing. Some of the races are going to be moved around a little because I'm actually now getting the names for their actual names. I'm still looking for the information on this Tic Tac ship, mind you. But here's a neat little thing with manifest and with the law of attraction. Okay, about 3 months ago, I stopped wearing this particular ring. Okay, this particular ring here. This was the one I got from my brother when he passed. Okay, now about 3 months ago, I stopped wearing it. But bear in mind, this ring, if you see the green in it, it's sterling silver, but the green is malachite. Now, malachite it holds the energy of attracting finances. Okay. Well, 3 months ago, I had to stop wearing it because my hand was swelling too much. So what ended up happening is all of a sudden my world goes and collapsed financially. Okay. And it only just dawned on me just either the day before or the morning or yesterday morning. It was either the night before last or yesterday morning when it dawned on me of the connection that was missing. So, of course, I put the ring back on, and all of a sudden, everything started to move in the right direction. Okay. And like I said, the company that was working with me for the books, 5 years, they sold 5 books for me. Okay. Now, these were professional marketers. Okay. Now, in the last week and a half, between the different books I've got, I sold 4, and I've got a whole pile of different ideas now running as far as how to enhance that side of it. One thing I do desire to clear up right now. Okay. People talk about literally focusing on what they want in life. And this is the first thing and one of the most devastating misconceptions that we've got to deal with. Okay. Now, you guys have undoubtedly heard me talk, and I'll be saying something, and I'll go something like, well, I want this. And then, no, that's not correct. I desire this. And here's why. Okay. When you look at, now, first and foremost, if you go back through my older videos, back into the archives, and they're totally free, I am never, as far as I can tell, going, unless all of a sudden I have to start paying for it to start with. The odds of my ever putting anything on the connected to the stream, okay, as something you're going to have to pay for to get better insight, not going to happen. Okay, I don't see the point. I've got all sorts of things I can charge for. I don't need to do that. Besides that, once you've got something going for free, all of a sudden tacking a price on it is crippling in a lot of ways. Okay, but if you go back to my older videos, you look up under a subset called language, and you will find one that is on want. Okay, listen to it. What it essentially says is when you say you want something, you are creating the energy of want or the energy of lack. So when you go, I want $1 million in my bank account, what you're actually telling, what the universe is hearing is, I would like to, I desire to experience a lack of $1 million in my account. I'm telling you, I've experienced that long enough. Okay, I don't know about you, but this issue of experiencing lack just doesn't do a whole lot for me anymore. Now remember, guys, if you have a question, okay, whatever the question, even if it's not in the topic we're looking at, okay, absolutely put that question in all caps. That way I can find it. But it's not yelling. It's simply waving your hand to say, hey, I've got a question. Okay. Makes it a whole lot easier to find the thing. Now, of course, this is the other thing. Yes, I've got the paints out because I'm working on a number of things. Because, like, I only work on one thing at a time, right? The reality of it is this: when you desire to get things accomplished, you have to be the one putting the effort into it. All the talking, all the asking in the world is not going to help. Well, it'll help, it'll give you ideas, which is where I rely on you guys in a lot of ways, is finding out what topics are of interest. Okay. Or what topics are of interest, or which one you'd like to deal with next. Now, what do we got? We just got movement up here. YJ, how you doing? No, I've been moving some shelves around there, YJ. The thing is, this office is going to be changed when my son gets moved back in. So my whole office will be moved down back, and there'll be changes there too. But I've been getting rid of the clutter. Okay, now that particular shelf that you're noticing is missing. Okay, I like the way you put that there, YJ. That shelf I took out to the dining room where I do all my gaming. Okay, because all it's got on it now, well, the 4 top shelves are just full of figures. Okay, the bottom shelf still has groceries on it because, well, like I like to have my food. I swear I'm half Hobbit a lot of the time. The one thing I don't do that many Hobbits do is I don't smoke. Well, that ain't gonna work. If that's it too long, and all of a sudden I've got a paintbrush that is absolutely toasted. So I get up here, and way over here, way up. I think that was the friendly giant. But when we're looking at the law of attraction, okay, you have to decide what you desire in your life. If you desire people to treat you decently, okay, then swearing at them, yelling at them, calling them idiots is not going to work. Okay, all that will do is encourage them to return the favor, because energy out, energy in. Okay, this is just the way it works. Now, you can argue the point, or you can go, I don't believe in that, or I don't relate to that reality. I don't identify with that. Use any term you want. It's very much along any term you desire. Anytime you want to start arguing with whether you believe in gravity, be my guest, but I caution you, do not push the limits on that belief, because it doesn't care whether you believe in it. The laws of the universe do not care whether you believe in them. Okay, you don't have to believe it's cold out. If you're outside too long, you'll freeze to death. And then you can debate with somebody else as to why it happened that way. The reality is, when you desire something to shift gears, take the word want or the word need, either one of these. You replace them, even in mid-sentence, with you desire or you choose. Because if I've got the paint, like this is just black paint, it's nothing serious. It's acrylic, which is what I use for my figures. Okay. And as you can see, when you take a look at my figure, it's, I've been using a lot of it to add weight. But I can look at this and go, yeah, and it doesn't make much sense. Some things don't make much sense with it. I can go without moving my hands. I want this and this paint to show up in my left hand. And you'll notice it moves really, really quickly. See, it's gone and back again. Kind of works like a yo-yo on a bungee cord. Okay, but and it makes sense. If you use the term want in linear thinking, you're saying, I want that because it's over here. I want it in my left hand. Okay, it's not there. In a linear thinking process, this makes total sense. But in the universe's idea, they go, you desire to experience a lack of the paint in your left hand. Well, you've succeeded. You've got it. Now, conversely, if I've got the paint in my right hand like this, I can sit here and go, I desire to have that ink and that paint in my right hand. Even though it's already there, I can desire to have it there. I can choose to hang on to it without it affecting anything in a negative fashion. Okay, but when we are talking about making reality change, about the law of attraction, the law, you talk to many spiritual guides, many religions, they'll tell you thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. Well, if that were the case, I'm pretty certain there wouldn't be a single soul in an abusive relationship, starving, in a homeless. There would, if thinking about something were as effective. Oh, well, thank you so much there, YJ. I really appreciate that. I will be doing that. I've actually got it scheduled the next 3 months, and we'll see what happens at that point. But as it stands, the next 3 months, I will be dealing with that, with reading the excerpts in a specific pattern. As a matter of fact, where am I looking here? That's Race of the Worlds. That's the stream. So what did I do with the other one? Nope, did that. Where did the thing go? There it is. Put down, it wasn't supposed to go down. Next week, I'll be looking at the letter that the first guy that actually read the manuscript did. I will read that, and then the introduction. And again, I don't know how long those particular streams are going to be, because it boils down to I'll be reading them, and once I read them, hey Ken, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And I missed, who did we miss here? Patenkin. Didn't see you coming in. My apologies. Hope your day has gone well. You will find, as a matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever seen you in here before, but welcome aboard. In case you don't know, if you've got questions, even if it's not in the topic we're on, absolutely put your questions in all caps. It's not yelling like it is in text. Apparently, you put all caps, it's all yelling. In at least my this chat room, I hesitate to call it mine because, quite frankly, if you guys weren't here, wouldn't be much point in my being here. I can talk to myself without having a video. But putting your questions in all, well, thank you very much. Glad you could join us. If you've got questions, absolutely put them all and put them in all caps. It's kind of like waving your hands so I can spot them. Okay. The reality, when we're talking about wanting your life to change, you can want your life to change and it will sit right where it is. Okay, but like I was saying, if thinking about doing something is as good as doing it or as bad as doing it, okay, then quite frankly, there wouldn't be a single soul, I'm pretty certain of it, nobody would be starving. The government wouldn't have to be handing out extra checks for people. Nobody would be in an abusive relationship. Nobody would have kids they didn't want. They wouldn't have parents they didn't want. All of that would go away. Okay. Sadly, think about it. I'm an author. And if thinking about something is as bad as doing it or as good as doing it, quite literally, I'm in the middle of writing the books where the world turned upside down and went to heck in a handbasket. Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Just remember, you got to pay more attention to work than you do to us. I mean, I love the fact you join us, but whatever you do, especially if you're driving, you absolutely make certain that you pay attention to the driving side. But when we take a look at the world, now there's this neat little idea that you talk about what you want. Take a look at your dream board, write down what you want. I'm telling you, that is a backwards way of doing it. It's going to create complications because it will generate a barrier that says, I desire to experience a lack of all of my dreams. Okay, everything you put on that dream board, when you put it there with the want in mind, okay, you're creating a sense of lack. You're creating a barrier for yourself towards prosperity. Now, I don't know about you, but I've suffered from that a long time. You got to realize, well, you don't have to. I've gone through the ringer, usually self-directed. Okay, by my own stupidity, by my own not paying attention to things. Okay, and it is time for us to turn around and go, enough of the building a world that we want to change. Now is the time to put your foot down and go, it's time to make it happen. Okay, the moment I started thinking in terms of I am going to get the marketing sorted around, all of a sudden I got all these ideas. Some of them came to me of my own accord. Many of them came from you guys. Okay, and this is why I'm starting to put together, and is it on my list today? I've got so much on my list right now, it's just absolutely bizarre. But when you take a look at things, okay, it is up to you to put the effort into making things change. Absolutely talk to whoever you choose to, whoever you can find emotional or intellectual support from. Absolutely talk to them. Okay. Even the person you get along with the least, a conversation with them may trigger an interesting shift in your thinking, or talking to a complete stranger. Now, when I was taking marketing in college, okay, we're talking years ago, I found out about something. Okay, and they termed it marketing math. And here's how that works, and this applies directly to the law of attraction. If you take four marketers, okay, well, take two marketers, put them in different rooms, okay, and go come up with a marketing idea to do whatever you're doing. Come up with an idea on how you can draw the success to you. And yes, before the end of the show, pretty quick here, I'm going to give you I call it fail-safe, but everything's got the option. A way of, no matter what your goal, you can actually attain it. I'm actually in the process of writing a book on it. Can't imagine me writing a book on a different topic. Such a weird idea. Anyway, if you take two people trying to come up with ideas on how to drive your... Hey, Kimberly, how you doing? Glad you came in. Yeah, cleaning is a good thing. I know I like to put it off, but, I used to live in a warehouse, so putting off cleaning when I was younger was actually quite easy. Now, not so much. But if you've got two of you sitting on your own, thinking about different ways that you can draw success, you can draw prosperity to you, the way it was laid out for me is you'll each come up with, say, 2 ideas. Okay, well, if you think about it, 2 ideas and 2 ideas gives you 4. But here's the trick. Okay, you put those 2 people in the same room with the same goal. Each one comes up with 2 different ideas. Theoretically, this gives you 4. But what tends to happen, okay, well, thank you so much for that, Kimberly. I appreciate it. Not looking at bringing them to a close anytime soon. If you take those 2 people with 2 separate ideas in the same room and they start talking about them, between those 4 ideas, quite often a 5th one will emerge. Okay, now net result, we have what I was taught was marketing math. 2 plus 2 equals 5. Okay, and again, this is a question of the law of attraction. You put more people working on the same project with the same goal, you're putting more energy into that project, and you're going to come out with a quicker response and a more successful outcome. Okay, now I say you're going to. There is the possibility it won't work. Okay, but that is up to you guys. And remember, where it comes to communication, no matter who you're talking to, is it a relative? Is it a loved one? Which, by the way, are not always the same thing. Is it a friend, a stranger, a coworker? Anytime you have a communication gap, it is. Now, this is based on over 100,000 clients that I've had over my life. Okay. I have never seen a variation in all of those clients where communication was not a 50-50 problem. This is not a question that you can sit down effectively and go, it wasn't my fault he didn't understand what I was saying, or it's not my fault I wasn't prosperous. Okay, you think about it. Now, I got handed last year, at the beginning of last year, and I'm going to ask it to you this way. I got handed in excess of $100,000 last year. Now, it's gone, pretty much. Who am I going to blame for it? Am I going to blame one of you? Who do you suggest I blame for that money going away? Oh, I'm going to have to write this one down. I don't technically have to. YJ, what do we got? YJ has just said, he goes, I've got a book idea for you, Keith. It's a guided journal for life changes, a template for a person's personal journey to transformation, like the outline for it, and the reader fills in the details. And that's not a bad idea. I will tell you, this one here is the backbone of that. Okay, this is the point form of how I turned my life around. This is called Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams. And yes, every book that I've got, clearly they're physically here. Okay, every one of them can be ordered through me directly. I work with PayPal. And, if you go to the top of the screen right now, to the top of the chat room right now, there is a website there and the email address to go through PayPal. Okay, if you're in Canada, now I'll give that to you first of all. But yeah, doing a step-by-step, as in, okay, this is the first thing. Now get this done, and then once you've done this, turn the page. That is actually a really good idea there, YJ. Okay, and it's actually not that hard to do. It's just complicated to find time on occasion. But what I will do here is, on my list of things I've got, remember that thing I mentioned about lists being really useful? I keep it here for a reason. So we go step by step workbook. Basically, it boils down to if I'm visualizing this correctly, it's going to take time. Like, I'll put it together without too much trouble, but we could be looking at a book that takes you 6 months to go through if you do it right. Okay. And bear in mind, while I'm doing this, I will be dead honest with you on this one. Well, I am anyway. Not the dead part. Did that before. Multiple times. But we'll get to that later. What I'll do is put it together, go, okay, here's the rules of reading this workbook and making it work. And I'll leave it open with blanks saying, okay, this is what we're aiming for. Where is your life? Let's do an assessment. Okay, and then now we start changing it one step at a time. Okay, but I've got to do it in such a way that it applies to everybody. Okay, the funny thing is, the neat part about this is an idea like that just adds to the back of everything else. It may come out earlier. I've got to do the calculation. But I think at present, because of a discovery that I came across, I think I've got something in the neighborhood of close to 35 books that are in the works already. They're already in queue. Okay. So, I mean, from my standpoint, it's something like this that will give me a way of staying focused and really getting things moving in the right direction and changing my life. Now, rest assured, if we can take my life and turn it around, you can certainly take yours. I mean, you think about it. You're like, you've gone through your own trials, and this is not a case of my whining or complaining about what I've been through. But think of this. Day one, okay, I passed away in the incubator. Okay, came back. Okay, my parents were told after the second time I died that I was mentally retarded. Now, they may have been right. The doctors may have been right on that. Okay, I don't know for certain. The jury's still out. One thing I will absolutely be doing tonight there, YJ, is getting point form ideas down with this particular book. Because it is one that in today's world, well, heck, in yesterday's world and tomorrow's world, it won't matter. It'll be the same thing. But it's one of these things that most people, they'll sit there looking at me, and I hear it all the time. I don't know where to begin. So this is absolutely one of those books that's got to be put into a priority position. Oh, I thought it already did. I missed that one. Maybe I slept through it. The 3 days of darkness. Here's the problem. If you're referring to now people that talk about the days of darkness, most of them are thinking in terms of it's going to be absolute pitch black, no light. The odds of that happening, not good. I would not be wasting my time personally worrying about it. Okay, we have a very dark period ahead of us, and we've got the ability to stop it. If we refer to the 3 days of darkness as a moral compass, as a moral darkness, we're already right in the thick of it. But you got to remember that 3 days is not based on Terran time. We are not talking about 72 Terran hours. We are talking about how long it is going to take for people to really come to the conclusion that going down the path that we are going down right now, okay, is not working well. And I will tell you, when we take a look at the spiritual side of it, okay, bearing in mind, I'm baptized Roman Catholic, raised Protestant, became agnostic, and then turned around and became a bona fide minister. But if we keep propagating the idea that the world is going to be dumped into chaos, it will be. It absolutely will be. But that 3 days, okay, if you take a look at it from what it says in the Bible, a day is 1,000 years. Now that's a long time. Your call if we're going to let it go to that. Okay, from my standpoint, I've got no interest in letting it go to that. I was quite seriously, not a year ago, I was seriously looking at pulling the plug on this and just saying, scrap it, I'm done playing playing this game. And no, I was not suicidal. The good news is I've never been suicidal. Just about got myself killed out of curiosity, but no, the 3 days of darkness it literally is a state of mind, but it's not a Terran day. Okay, those days can be as long as you desire. Now, the way that darkness usually comes about is we start from a really bright period. We were that way basically 5 years ago. We were doing not half bad. Things were coming into a nice balance. Then all of a sudden it started being propagated that there is this massive pandemic going on. We're going to go into land shortages, food shortages. Okay, we're going to have wars all over the world. We started talking about this 3 years ago in earnest. And lo and behold, what happens? Okay, lo and behold, the massive majority started going, we're going into a dark phase. Guess what? We're right smack in the middle of it. I gotta ask you, Kimberly. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Kimberly, I know I'm obtuse, but what, pray tell, is a prepper? Or is that somebody that prepares for the end of the world? I'm really at a loss on that one. But, am I where it comes to the 3 days of darkness, what we've got right now is we're going into a thank you very much there, Kimberly. On that particular note, and I'll come back to the darkness thing. As you can see, I go straight down the middle. Absolutely works like a charm. I do encourage people to have 2 to 3 months backup, food, finances, health materials, and what have you. Available power, that sort of thing. And make sure if you're storing canned goods, get a manual can opener. And I do not mean a can opener that has anything turning on it. Okay. But talk to the seniors, the ones that actually went through the really hard times. We are at a point right now where we can continue permitting this idea of, I don't relate to that person. I don't identify as that. We've got to start identifying as a species. Okay. I think that was a pepper there, Shadow. Pretty certain that was, I'm a pepper, you're a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? And honestly, I don't mind Dr. Pepper. He was a nice enough chap. But I'm just not quite certain how he got so big that they managed to put him in so many bottles. But, when we take a look at the 3 days of darkness, first and foremost, what it really boils down to is this. And they happen all the time. Okay. People start off in a good mood, then they go into that dark period where they start to lose faith, they start to lose focus, they start to lose all kinds of things. In my case, I started to lose weight. I was happy. Okay. But, and we'll get back to that in a little while. It goes into that period, then you get into this really dark period where you're just looking at it going, I don't even have the energy or the desire to get out of bed. Okay. So what happens is you go through another period where you just don't desire to move. Okay. And then you come into that last day of darkness. And that is when you go, okay, I'm tired of living in the dark. I'm going to turn the light on one way or another. Now, I caution you, if you're turning the light on in your bedroom, don't use matches unless you got a candle handy or a lamp. But essentially, that's what the 3 days of darkness are. And they cannot be measured in Terran hours or in Terran days. Terran, by the way, for those of you that don't know what that boils down to, I am referring to Earthbound. Now, for those of you that are in the chat room, for those of you that are listening in, if you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate if you like the stream to give us a thumbs up. Do hit that subscribe button. Okay, and share it with everybody you can. And quite frankly, if there's people you don't like, share it with them. Maybe you can annoy them by sending them my direction. Because the Lord knows I make every single person I meet happy. Some of them I make happy by showing up. Most of them I make happy by leaving. And Joe's just saying, now where I live with my parents, if bug out was absolutely necessary, we would have to travel a great distance to shelter. I keep looking at it. If everything goes that sour, I'm looking at it going, would somebody mind finding my address and just dropping a bomb right on it? Because I frankly don't feel like picking up the mess again. I remember Pompeii. I remember Manoa. I remember the fall of the Roman Empire. Sodom and Gomorrah. I remember the Great Flood. All of these things are not research. I don't research anything because, quite frankly, I don't see the point most of the time. Primarily, I don't see the point because a lot of the information they put there is, shall we say, a bit skewed. At least in my opinion, from my memories. But we have a choice. Right now, we are descending into a period that could go very, very, very black. Now, here's the stupid thing to give you an idea of just how bad that can get. I recently got told by somebody that there is a faction of people trying to have the term blacktop changed because the name offends some people and some people that are black. I'm like, it's a color. Okay, what are you going to do? I mean, I've got gray hair. Is that going to become an offense? I'm sure there's a way we can tick off everybody. I've got a Bible. I've got a Bible called the Boomer Bible. And no, I know how offensive it could be. So I'm not going to go and dig it out. Okay, but it is literally called the Boomer Bible. Okay, if you want to read something that was designed to tick off everybody, except for a very small number, you gotta look it up. Now it is written as a Bible. Okay, but I thought when I first came across it that it was an explosives expert's Bible. Like an instruction booklet, if you will. Right. Turns out it was written by a baby boomer. If you get the chance to find it online and get it, it is hilarious to read. Sadly, the history buff that I know said the thing that made it funny was the fact that the history of it was absolutely right. Yeah, I like that. Shadow goes, I'm not going anywhere. Shelter in place and see what everyone left behind. See, from my standpoint, if things go sour, okay, there isn't going to be enough left behind to really worry about. That's a terrible way to put that there, Joe. If you think about it, if somebody's sense of humor is killing you, well, I guess there's only one way you could go better than that, at least in my opinion. We're just not going to touch on that. But if you can die laughing, there's only one other way that you could die, in my opinion, that would be a better way to go. But I will tell you, the psychological damage on the one left behind is not worth thinking about. But no, like I've already gone through my 3 days of darkness. Okay. Last year, and my days lasted months. Okay, somewhere I think probably around May of last year, I started getting into a really, and it may or may not have shown up on the streams, but I got on my own time into a very dark place where you really didn't want to talk to me outside of here because I had very little positive to say to anybody. Put on a real good show, in my opinion, because I didn't get thrown into a nut house for it. But I went through that from about May. Oh yeah. No, I remember having a lot of those, and it's amazing, you're running for your life and there's no thought about what you're gonna do afterwards. Okay. So, but when we are talking about, we can look down the road as to how bad things are gonna get. Okay, but here's what happens with it. I went into this really depressed time. Okay. And then I went through a very black period where nobody could say much of anything. Okay. I can understand that, Kimberly. Don't try this one. I grew up with those. And it was only about, where are we? We're in 23. So it's only about 8 years ago that I stopped having absolute PTSD attacks with them. Okay. So I really do feel for you. But what we're seeing here, okay, is you go into this dark period. And for me, from about May to September, I was on downhill slide. Then, and it only just dawned on me, this little ring went missing. Well, more to the point, I had to take it off because my hands were swelling so bad it was cutting the circulation off. So all of a sudden, my whole life turned upside down. Lost my primary source of income. Had to fire the people that were supposed to be helping with my books, which, by the way, turned into an absolute disaster. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it there, Shadow. Not so much the great life thing, but I mean, I've lived 59 years. Give me another 2 months, and now I'm curious. I am very curious, really, so I can solve that curiosity. See, that's February, April, and we go into May. Yeah. Yeah, that would be an interesting one. See, I'll actually be online on my birthday this year. At least I think. I don't know. It depends on how things go. I may or may not be. That remains to be seen. But I went into this very dark period, and every single one of you goes through the 3 days of darkness yourself. That makes 2 of us, Kimberly. In my case, it'll be the 13th. But we all go through our own 3 days of darkness, and it is a very real period. Some of us go into more than one. And the trick there is find people that are willing in your not to help you when you're down. Okay, or to help you when you're up, rather. But the ones that are willing to step in and go, okay, you're having a problem. Let's get your tail feathers drug up off the ground. Okay, and get back at it. Now, the 3 days of darkness for me it's coming to an end. Okay, and in all fairness, I can honestly say it's you guys in the chat room, okay, that have really assisted me in doing that. Okay, in coming to the point where I can get my head focused and go, here's how I'm going to turn the lights back on. Only I'm not interested in just turning the lights on for me. Okay, I came here to turn the lights on for pretty much everybody in existence. And this means the humans, the ancient races, the off-worlders, the grass, the plants, the animals, the energy patterns, all of it, including the minerals and the planet itself. This is why I returned. Okay, now the reality of it, and yes, I've been here before, a number of times actually. But The reality of it is this. I can tell you what we've got and what will not work. Okay. And I say it won't work because I've seen it done so often. It is absolutely, that was nearly a bad word. There's another word, but it was almost insane how many times people have tried to do the exact same thing. We're going to change the world by, I don't know, let's blow up another country because that'll make us feel better. It was kind of like way back. Okay. People came to the conclusion that killing their firstborn son, sacrificing them, really affected the weather. And you'll notice it didn't do a whole lot. Okay. But what we do have the ability to do is by reaching out to each other, by turning around and making the effort to say, hey, you're doing a good job. Thanks so much for doing that. I walked by a place, I walked by a construction site. I was talking to a chap the other day. Right. He was running a construction site. And I looked at the thing and I says, well, that makes it complicated because he blocked off the sidewalk. And of course, I was on a cane. And he goes, what, you actually stopped for this? I said, well, I kind of figured it meant that there was a problem if I didn't. He goes, you would be amazed how many people complain that we're doing this. I'm like, well, I could, but you're trying to do it the best you can. I mean, I do question things, but manifestation, quite literally, the art and the law of attraction is this. If you put focused effort into something, you are drawing that to you. You've heard the term, if you've got any religious background at all. Okay, I'm sure you've heard the term that says God helps those that help themselves. He wasn't talking about thieves. Okay, but I told you there's a formula, and I'm writing a book to make this a little bit more, put this a little more in detail. There are 4 steps in accomplishing anything, no matter what your background. These lock right in solid with the law of attraction. Number 1, you've got to have a purpose for drawing something to you. Okay, if you don't have a purpose that catches you here, you're going to have, in all likelihood, a lot of trouble to deal with. Okay, a lot of obstacles that are going to be self-imposed. Okay, so you've got to have a purpose. Now, once you've got a purpose, why are you striving to draw this to you? Okay, and ask yourself this. If you're constantly yelling at people, okay, what is the reason you're doing that? Is it because they are doing something that is dangerous that you're striving to protect them from? Or are they doing something that you just plain don't have the courage to do yourself? What, pray tell, is a normal life, Kimberly? Kimberly's just saying, I have PTSD from the voices. I was living a normal life until the voices started. Going on a UFO, seeing paranormal activity, losing my husband. My sincere condolences for that one. Okay. Yeah, Kimberly's going, these aren't especially from MK Ultra. Yeah, I could. Sad to say there, Shadow. I come from a gaming world. And there's all sorts of ways that I've considered dealing with people that are on my property. Okay, even when it's not my property. Yeah, see, you had the unfortunate part in a lot of ways there, Kimberly, of not knowing about it. I grew up in that world. Okay, I didn't know what normal was. I'm still working on it. It's like when people go, you got to learn to think outside the box. I'm like, would somebody please point out where the box is? Oh, I see it. See, so I do think outside the box. And you'll notice I have a box. And, the reality is I'm not in it. So, I've got the thinking outside the box down to a fine art, and I finally figured out where the box is. But I grew up with a world that is just absolutely twisted. For me, it's more like science fiction to you. And in all fairness there, Kimberly, I really wish that it had been a lot longer. I.e., how about not having it come back? That unfortunately is not likely to be the case. But when we look at the law of attraction, what you focus on, you keep telling yourself, and I've done the same thing during that really dark period, during the last 2 days of darkness, or 2 nights of darkness I've just gone through. By the time I was 5, I had already died twice. Sorry, when I was 5, I'd already died 3 times. And I mean clinically dead. Which, by the way, brings me to another little point here. Talk about going sideways. Tomorrow we're dealing with orbs. On the 22nd, we're dealing with healing modalities. And I did just get told. So where did I write it here? Nope, not that one. There we are. And I do believe we are going to deal with that one on the next. Not Thursday, Friday. We are going to deal with what is beyond the light. Just writing it down to make sure I get it locked in here. Okay. Now, the reality of the reality of the law of attraction, what you put your effort into, like I said, first you've got to have a purpose. Then, whether it's you coming up with it or talking to a lot of different people, you got to come up with a plan on how to attain what it is you're aiming at. And this is why I have talked about dream boards and the power of the list. By breaking your task down into 15-minute to half-hour tasks, you can physically accelerate your manifestation capacity. Okay. See, they call her the Grim Reaper, and I always looked at her, and she was always in a good mood. I mean, talk about having a self-perpetuating job. Funny part about it is some of the people that go over are happy than heck to get over there. Other ones are screaming blue murder. But when we take a look at this issue, you have a plan, you put a plan together, whether you come up with it yourself, whether it's through trial and error, whether it is talking to other people that have already successfully done something like that, doesn't matter. Put a plan together. Take the big picture, put it on a dream board. This draws the energy. This is a way of attracting that energy out of the spiritual realm into the material world where it can be made manifest. Okay, once you've got the plan in place, now you get to work. And like I said, you take every step of that plan, you break it down into 15-minute to half-hour tasks. Okay, this is the way of the law of attraction. The law of attraction does not say, think about it and it'll be handed to you. Here's a real quick shortcut. Okay, there are no functional shortcuts to your own success, to your own bounty, your own surplus. The shortcut is this: quit sitting on your tail feathers and get off. Get up and do it. YJ's just gone. The first thought occurrence I remember is waking up at 3 a.m. backwards on my backwards on my covers with my clothes on wrong. got up and just stared out the window. Next day, my mom and neighbor both spoke of a craft. Yeah, that's about as much physical proof as you're going to get. Okay, why? And then YJ continues on and goes, a larger ship with several smaller ones, leaving it and coming down and back up, and back up again. I was around 5. Now I gotta ask you, YJ, do you remember? And I know this is completely sidetracked, but this is why I say I pick a topic to start with, or in this case, you guys do. If you remember anything about the ship, about the ship or the people, that may help put things to balance. It was funny. It wasn't until 2016 that my father confirmed everything I had gone through. Until then, he had told me I was completely off my nut and sent me for help. The help didn't help much. But the law of attraction decide what it is you desire your life to look like. I desired to have my world shift. One of the things that I'm in the process of drawing, is this issue of making a living based on my writings. Now I've got a staggering amount of information sitting in my head. Much of it is in conflict to what other people have told you, not the least of which is when we talk about manifesting, putting down what you want. That is going to create a problem. Have you ever noticed many of you are going, I want to be wealthy, and yet you're still struggling day to day? Now the first thing you got to figure out is what is wealthy to you. That is the biggest issue. Hey, Jordana, glad you could join us. Hopefully your day is going well. When you're thinking in terms of the power of attraction, the law of attraction, remember, the law of attraction does not say that what you're doing will only draw positive things to you. All it says is it will draw what you're focusing on to you. So if you're focusing on being ill, on your health deteriorating, on getting old and getting decrepit, guess what you're setting the stage for? It's not the doctors, it's not the government, although they probably aren't necessarily helping. It is a question of understanding that what you're focusing on is what you're going to draw. Now, when I was younger, I was told then that the best way to get this message out, was to start a church. Well, in case you hadn't noticed, and you probably haven't looked into it, I did. Trying to start a church isn't going to happen anymore. That venue has been closed by the mainstream religions. So I'm not going to bother with that. Well, I hope you didn't lose the finger you wore that on. But I will tell you, they call her the Grim Reaper. And from my experience with her, she has a sense of humor that is just hilarious. Right? It's twisted, albeit. I will absolutely give it that it's twisted. But she's really not that grim. The thing is, you have to remember where it comes to rings and what have you. It's the power you put into the ring, the belief of what it draws to you. If we go to Japan, if we go to Japan, then what happens is in a wedding in Japan, they wear black they wear a black kimono or whatever word they use for it, I don't know. But they wear a black one over top of a white one because the black signifies the end of one life And when they take it off during the ceremony, they're left with the white one, indicating the start of a new life. Now, if you take a look at the ring of the Grim Reaper, okay, it can mean the root of a new life. Because we got to remember, in order to have your body work, you've got a skeleton inside it. That skeleton is what bears the rest of you around so you can have a life. So it's not actually a bad type of ring to wear if you look at it in a different light. You know, Gordana, here's the thing. I used to read with I used to share a room with a full empath. And you guys have a lot of you have worked with candles or you've looked into it. Something you got to understand about the color of black. Most people see it as as you said there, Gordana, that it absorbs energy. Here's the thing. For me, black doesn't absorb it. Black signifies the unknown. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something. And then, of course, white signifies the known. In other words, what you're not seeing is hidden by the black. What you are seeing is shown up by the white. Okay. It depends on how you look at it. If you attribute a negative thing, a bright thing, a good thing as a negative, take a look at the white light. Okay, now think back to the movie The Gremlins from back in the 80s. Okay, what did they say? What did the little gremlins do when the lights were turned on? Oh, bright light, and they went to hide from it. Now, we see the bright light as a good thing within reason. I'm telling you, looking into a spotlight at 5,000 candle watt, not a good idea. You'll be blind pretty quick. But, when you take a look at things, okay, it's up to you how you look at them as to what it's going to do. And the law of attraction, like I said, does not just mean that it attracts only the positive. It means it attracts everything. You'll notice if you've got a big magnet, it does not pick whether it's going to draw nails or hubcaps or pen pieces or coins. It's going to draw all of it. So you've got to understand, well, you don't have to, you can do what you will. You may find it beneficial to understand that when we're talking about the law of attraction, it is unilateral. It does not pay any attention to that side of it at all. Well, I have been looking into the blue people, and they are actually in volume 2. You're talking about the Yldrbacs, I believe. Pretty certain it's the Yldrbacs that are blue. That are recognized as tall blue. The reality of it is, whatever people look at, like people are drawn to different colors. For me, I was lucky in a sense. My favorite color, because I was colorblind growing up, my favorite color was gray. Of course, I had to choose from gray, and we had gray. So when favorite colors were developed, that's what it boiled down to. But when we're talking about the law of attraction, when you think in terms of what you want to change, you're creating a barrier because you're setting up the fact that you desire a lack of that particular event or of that particular shift. Okay. So we got to realize, or it would be really beneficial in my eyes and in my experience, to focus on that side of it. When we're dealing with the changes in this world, we are heading into a period, and we've been heading there for a long time. I don't pay attention to the news much for a reason. That's fabulous there, Gordana. And we could take that all kinds of different ways, but, that's just it. The only problem I've ever had with dressing in white is, quite frankly, if you are outside doing anything, white shows up everything that goes a different color. Not necessarily a great setup. But when we focus on what you desire to change in your life, it's going to require effort. Oh, let's go back to that thing I was talking about. You've got the purpose in mind. You've got the plan. Now you require two other things. One, you've got to have persistence. You've got to stay on track with the different projects you're working on to make them happen. Okay. Like, the reality is, yeah, you can have the law of attraction, but what you don't have is the law of contact, which is a good thing when you think about it. I mean, how many asteroids or how many meteors are attracted to Earth, and yet, actually, in all fairness, they're pushed to it. But just think what would happen if they all impacted. Okay, I mean, we could have one heck of a mess. But the law of attraction does not differentiate between people, whether you're a pauper, whether you're a millionaire. No matter what your color is, the law of attraction applies to everybody. And it works in exactly the same fashion for everybody. Now, I will tell you, it's not a question of people that study the law of attraction. It's people that implement it have the most success with it. Okay, I finally got shown an answer, regarding the path that I've chosen to go down. And intriguingly enough, you guys are actually a lot of the reason why it went that way. Okay, is all of a sudden I'm faced with this neat little idea that maybe I can pull this off. Okay, just possibly I can put it together. But the reality is that is only going to happen, even in my world, if I get off my tail feathers and do something with it. Okay, which is why I've started making very clear notes. See, I keep doing that. I'll say something and go, did I actually remember to do that? That's it. I did forget to do that. Yeah, today's the 20th. So, I'm just trying to remember here. Came on here at 4:30, making 2:30 to 3:30. Thought I wrote that down, but apparently not. See, I've been tracking my sleep to make sure I bring it down to a reasonable level. But that's where this neat little hard kind like tabletop calendar of mine comes in handy. Get an idea in your mind as to what you desire your life to look like. And then start altering the things that are going on around you that are holding you back. Ultimately, YJ, the biggest difference between virtually all of the different races and humans is the complexity of their toys. Okay, that is the biggest difference. And the thing I've noticed is this. People talk about, I need this stuff to be happy. Take a look at the peoples around this world. The ones that do not have all the technology, that spend time outside with other people, dealing with nature, dealing with the actual energies of life. Those people tend to be happier. Okay, I mean, I watched a kid the other day. Right, all this little munchkin was doing was change. I mean, from his standpoint, was weird. Kid was all about 2 years old. I was shown a video, and I actually reposted it on Facebook. But it showed a bunch of little kids how they figure out how to move around. They all move around, But the funniest one of the lot of them was this kid that turned around, put his forehead on the ground, and started running along. Right? He was pushing himself along on his forehead using his feet. You know, that's the funny thing, YJ. YJ's just saying, I think the majority of aliens are just like us, trying to survive and thrive. The more we seek to understand them, the more we probably find we have in common, even if we have a way inferior IQ. The reality is humans do not have a low IQ. Humans on the whole are excessively creative and have a lot of drive. What humans have taught themselves to do is distrust their own instincts. And honestly, that I agree with there, YJ. The issue of pursuing some sort of spiritual development, most of them they already know where they are. The thing is, when we look in our own life, you are right. They live within the means, they figure out where they are, and they go, this is what I'm going to do to make me happy. Because what they've done is exactly what I'm talking about. They've taken the things they're not content with and redirected the energy in order to be content with what they had. Okay. Now, this is the law of attraction. Law of attraction is also known as the karmic law. Energy out, energy in. What you put your effort into, what you focus on, is what you're drawing towards you. Okay, if you think about it in terms of fishing, okay, a fisherman uses the law of attraction by going, I'm going out to go, and I'm talking about just fly fishing, which I never understood how you were going to catch a fly with a hook. I mean, heck, I can't catch the dang thing with a fly swatter. So you got to, hats off into fly fishers that actually succeed. But a fisherman goes out on the boat, and they go, I'm aiming to draw fish in. So what does he do? He doesn't go out in the boat and sit there and go, I'm going to think about the fish getting into my boat. He takes a tool, also known as a fishing rod, casts it out, and then draws it back. Now you notice I use the term he casts. Fishermen get it right all the time. They're going to cast their fish and their hook out in an effort to draw the fish to their boat. Okay, now we can go back to the other end of this. And this is why I say everything is connected. When Satan was cast out of heaven, he was sent out, okay, with a purpose in mind. She was sent down to teach you one thing. Now, a fisherman goes, I desire to attract fish and bring them to my boat. So if you're going out fishing, you throw out whatever you use for fish food. I don't know. I don't fish. Okay. I gave up on trying to fly fish. Although I did give a guy credit when I found out he was ice fishing. He caught a lot of ice. I'll tell you, if you're going ice fishing, don't go in the middle of winter because you're going to have a pain in the neck getting them. On the other hand, come to think, if you want to ice fish in the middle of summer, take a tray of ice cubes with you. Toss them in the water, fish them back out. The reality of it is what you focus on, what you put your effort into, this is what you're drawing to you. And it doesn't mean you have to do it on your own. Okay? Changing this world is not going to happen by one person saying, this isn't working well. It's going to happen by the major majority of people getting up. Hey, Christine, glad to see you got here. The reality of it is our world is going to change for the better when we work together as a unit. When we start putting the effort into focusing on the similarities between us and the positive things that each of us is doing. That's just the reality behind it. at least from what I see. Now, there's lots of people that go, it's never going to change because it's been this way forever. And it's been this way for thousands of years. Well, it has been. But let me ask you this. If you're looking at changing this world, and things always stay the same, and there's all kinds of axioms that go along with it. A leopard never changes its spots. These people will never get along with those people. These people will never be accepted. Go back in history. Okay, the Scottish clans, it was said they would never unite until, of course, the English tried invading Scotland. That didn't work out all that well for the English. Okay, it was said that the United States would never become a country because there was no way that the 13 colonies would ever agree to one set of rules. Okay, it was said Canada would never be its own country. Slavery would never end. Okay, and I will tell you, every single one of you, I would lay odds, and I doubt very much the amount of money your family had any bearing on it. I would lay odds that every single one of you, when you were younger, ended up filling your diapers with whatever was available. Okay, and I'm hoping that most of you don't anymore. Okay, this is the reality behind what we're looking at. And what they see, the other side of this is they tell you that, we were talking a little just moments ago about the 3 days of darkness. Okay, what people are not aware of is you've got the 3 days of darkness and the 3 days of light. And this is a cycle of life. This was designed before the universe was ever even put into existence. The reality of it is we've got to choose to quit listening to people that are telling us our world is going to come to an end in some cataclysmic end, or some other than human per individual is going to come down and select a few individuals, okay, and take them up and say, okay, you guys are special, so we're going to say you're better than everybody. Sorry, guys, none of you are better than the person next to you. Not a single one of you, myself included. Okay, the reality is we have got to start focusing on where the similarities are, what we have in common, and what we are going to do with them. Okay, like, are we going to continue spreading the message? And I'm referring to continue on the whole, spreading the message that this world is a shambles and it's somebody else's job to clean it up, and we're all going to die. Okay, now, I mean, I will agree, we are all going to die. Every one of us is going to die. It's just a question of, it's not a question of how are you going to die. It's a question of how are you going to live. So it is my suggestion and my hope that, that you take a look at the way your life is, okay, and ask yourself, is this the life that you desire to continue perpetrating, okay, and continue reconstructing? The book that YJ's just suggested I put together is a fantastic idea in my eyes. Okay, it's just a question of putting it in terms that people from every walk of life can understand. Now, sorry, I work in English. Okay, I do not translate. I mean, I'll translate from some of the higher concepts into easier terminology. But in my case, I'm tired of living on the edge of poverty. Okay, but I finally got my head on straight on how to go about changing that. And the sad part of that is simple. I've been telling other people how to do it for a very, very long time. Okay, and totally ignored it. Of course, in all fairness, my sense of self was, to say the least, a bit of a shambles. But in case, and again, this is just something I've come to the understanding we sort of look at. don't forget, if you do like the stream, give us a thumbs up. Okay. And that would be really appreciated because, quite frankly, it does seem to have something to do with the algorithm YouTube has. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so and spread the word. Spread the channel, because the reality is this message has to come out. We've got to stop people if we desire this world to shift. We've got to stop people from living in fear. Okay. Yes, there are things that we do that are necessary in the realm of common sense, if you will. Okay. The difficult part is if you've had a rough life, if your life has gone sideways, okay, then it can be difficult to see your way into a brighter point. I've gone through ups and downs my whole life. So have you. So how about if we look at this? If we take a look at it, you take a look at the way your life is. Are you content with the way it is right this moment? If not, it is time to do something about it. Now, I can tell you it's time. I can tell you it's necessary that you put the effort into it. Okay. But I will also tell you that it is easier when you've got a support group around you that will encourage you to do so. Okay. That's just the reality of it. And one thing that I absolutely have to look at myself, I don't take a lot of time to pop into the different chat rooms. I'm usually in the middle of writing, and quite frankly, it takes up both of the screens I've got left. But take a look at where it is. The law of attraction boils down to this. You focus on it. You put the effort into it. You draw it to you. Now, I will tell you, it doesn't matter how much you try, how much effort you put in. If you're trying to clean out a cesspool, okay, it's great. Cleaning out a cesspool, cleaning out garbage is great. You do it one step at a time. But it becomes problematic if you're trying to clean out a garbage area and other people are constantly pouring garbage into it. This is why we've got to get this message out to people. This is why people have to start looking at the world as, how can we do this together? If we desire the litter to change, the litter content of the world to change, number one, we've got to go back to the idea of this disposable packaging. Okay, you think about it way back, and I would love to see it happen. We now have technology to make this possible. Okay, right now we're using plastic bags all over the place. They finally got into the reusable ones. Okay, but way back when I was a kid, we used paper and brown paper bags. Okay, that was all we used. And brown paper bags, they break down really quickly. And besides that, with the new technologies and the new ways of recycling paper and wood products, frankly, they don't create a lot of pollution. And this is why it is so important that we turn around and go, okay, what you're focusing on, whether it is good or bad, doesn't matter. That makes total sense there, YJ. Frankly, I don't have a lot of stainless steel, but I will tell you, I'm looking into getting functional dishes and what have you. Obviously, pots I use that way, but again, you do have all sorts of hiccups that can cause a problem. Joe's just saying, as far as the full moon goes, especially during the hunting season, but just the full moon in general, I've heard the darndest things outside my upstairs window at night. Yeah, you live in one of these houses would be great. That'd be great to live in my eyes. Okay, but yeah, the thing is, all if you listen to them, Joe, all of those things carry a message. You know, all of those things carry a message for you. And that's just the reality behind it. But you got to learn to listen to them. Okay, and yeah, glass is another one of those things there, Gordana, that works really well. You know, because it is so reusable. It just takes a little bit of cleaning to deal with it. But again, it's one of those things that glass doesn't necessarily break down completely. But when it gets crushed down, it's kind of like gravel, just a whole lot sharper. But again, these are some of the things that we look at. If we are going to turn this world around, it's not a question of, people go, well, it's not a law, so we don't have to do it. Do not wait for the laws to come into place to make it necessary to save the planet you're living on or to change the way your life is going. Okay, let's just accept the fact that the laws are a little skewed in favor of people that are missing the boat a lot of the time. Okay, do not wait for laws to be passed by somebody else. Pass a law in your own life. Look at your own life and go, what am I going to do to make my life better? And do I know how to do it? If not, who do I know that knows how to do it? Okay, this is the power of the law of attraction. When you desire to have something happen, get up and put the effort into making it happen. Do not wait for somebody else to say it's necessary. Okay, I can quote all sorts of things that people have waited for somebody to turn around and solve. Okay, it works so much faster in your life if you decide, I'm changing my life. The moment you do that, your life will take a turn for the better. Now, if I look back over here, what is that up there? See, I look up here, and these are just sitting here until such time as I don't have to have them in here. But everything is starting to get organized, including my little play toy. It can no longer hang where it's supposed to, or where it was. But when you desire your world to take a change for the better, it is up to you to start making a shift. Yeah, Gordon is just telling us that in India they dedicate copper dishes, mugs for water. Okay, the reality of it is you take things that don't easily shatter, and yet if you're using them time and again, they pay for themselves. Okay, it's funny. If you pay attention to what you're doing, you can get a lot accomplished. This is why this summer I'm going to go back and put my hand into seeing what I can do about canning some stuff. Hey Nathan, how you doing? Glad you got home. Excellent. Oh, you're not home yet. You're still at work. Yeah, listening listening and lurking at work. Oh, excellent. When you're looking at your world and you decide, well, what do we got? Nathan, the funny part there is you have to step out of this kind of world in order to deal with the world and with your own priorities. It's like, I couldn't believe it the one day I was talking to somebody and they asked me, is it okay if I just listen in and not come into the chat room? And I'm like, absolutely. The message from me is not come into the chat room because I'm so special. Okay. I'm a little twisted, but special I wouldn't call it. what I'm saying is the message is what's got to get out there. Whether it gets out there from me or somebody else that is out there telling you, reiterating that people are equally important. Nathan's just putting here, remember my sister and I manifested a car for my mom, and it only took 5 days. That was amazing. Absolutely. Okay. And you should be proud of yourself. This is the power of the law of attraction at its finest. Okay. Now, I worked it out. Of course, I don't have my calculator out here, do I? I do so. See, I know what it costs to run my house. Where it comes to manifesting prosperity, figure out how much it costs you to run your house. You take care of the finances, and I will tell you that the two things you look at, get the finances balanced and get the clutter out of the primary arteries of your home. And you will find your energy level climbs, the depression that you may be fighting with goes away. Okay. Yeah, I sort of had the same problem there, Nathan. Nathan just goes, "We're great with fighting chances. I guess I refuse big breaks." I've had the same problem. I actually had a chance. Somebody in Hollywood came to me with a contract because I've been saying I've got to get this message out. And this guy suddenly shows up with a contract to tell my life story. And I turned the contract down. I took one look at it and I went, not going to happen. And he goes, "But you want this message to get out?" I said, "Yeah, I absolutely do." And he turns around and he says, "But you don't understand how much money you're turning down." And so I understand fully the amount of money I'm turning down. But you seem to be having trouble understanding how little I care. Money is not the thing that drives me at all. And it's got to be a side effect. When money becomes a side effect, you'll find that it flows a little more readily. Now from my standpoint, I know what I've got to draw in. And yes, I am intending on doing it through the books, through consulting. One of the reasons that I decided I was going to do the readings of the Yldrbac Chronicles was to manifest the awareness that the book even exists. Okay. If you are focused on the things that make you happy, number one, the issue of work goes out the window. It no longer is work. I don't find it difficult to sit in front of a computer for hours at a time. Find it difficult to walk afterward, but that's just a side effect. But this is the time to really focus on what we're looking at and to manifest, to really focus on the art of attraction, on the law of attraction. The energy you put out, whether it is good or bad, that's what you're setting up to draw back to you. Okay, but it's up to you which way you want to deal with it. Now, I will tell you, from my standpoint, like there are people that'll say, what you put out comes back threefold. Well, if that's the case, then why not start putting nickels out and let them come back that way? Start small and let the world shift in your favor. Okay, it is one step at a time. I was just thinking, I'm looking at this sign behind me. It says on air. I'm thinking it's not on air, it's on the filing cabinet. But because I'll tell you, breathing air I can do. Breathing a filing cabinet, I'm thinking is harder than breathing coffee. But there are so many things that we have been taught to fear, not the least of which is success and bounty. We've been told we are supposed to live in a struggling world for the rest of our lives. Well, quite frankly, for all of our lives. unless we were born with the proverbial spoon, the proverbial silver spoon. Now, to be honest, I have never seen a difference. I've never seen any difference in people. Certainly there are differences, but I prefer and I really encourage you to find a way to look at that person in the mirror and go, I deserve better. Therefore, I now have better. Whether that better means you've got the strength to leave a situation you're not content with and know you've gotten that the support will be there to land on your feet, or whether it's a case of, I know I can quit and that I can quit drinking. I'm living proof that it can be done. Okay, now I'm living proof of a lot of things. And this is why I say, I've been here before trying to pass this message on. I did in ancient Rome. Okay, with the gladiators. Worked to a degree. They were still a little on the volatile side, but the message has always been the same for me. If what you're doing isn't working, okay, if it's still resulting in null changes, then it is time to change what you're doing. It is time to focus on attracting the positive things in your life. Now, this applies to those of you that are currently looking for a boyfriend, a girlfriend, an emotional support partner, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I literally had a client years ago. She would ask me when she was going to find the next guy she could crawl into bed with. Right, literally that was her focus. Now, whatever it is, okay, focus on the things that are going to make you happy, providing they are not deliberately going to hurt somebody else. Because I will tell you this, if you focus on the idea of, I'm going to be happy by hurting somebody else, you're drawing that energy to you. And somebody else is going to find that they're happy by causing you pain. Okay, and this is something to consider. When we look at this world, it is absolutely imperative we realize that the whole lot of us share the same kind of situation. And if you don't believe me, take a look at the weather patterns. All of us are affected the same way by gravity. All of us are affected, the same way by too much water over our bodies. Okay, I heard somebody, bear in mind, I don't have a whole lot of use for stupidity. And that's including in myself. Okay, stupidity being repeatedly doing something where it's not going to work. Okay, and you do it anyway. It's kind of like the question that came up. What is the similarity between what you consider stupid people and slinkies? You remember that funny little spring that you take that you could pull apart? What is the similarity between them? Of course, hey Nightmare, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality of it is this. I was asked that question. I looked at him and I said, I'm not entirely certain where you're going. And the person turns around and says, well, the similarity is this. The stupid people and slinkies are both pretty much useless, but they still bring a smile to your face when you push them down the stairs. I do not recommend pushing stupid people down the stairs. Slinkies can be a lot of fun to watch. Okay, but the reality of what we're looking at is your life is going the way it is currently. But who's to blame for it? Frankly, you are. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're having financial difficulties because you're not getting paid properly, this is certainly the person that's supposed to be paying you. It's their fault that that's happening. But what you do with the money coming in is your job. I used to have a lot of money coming through the door. I should have paid attention to it. I was killing off, literally. I didn't want to, I just refused to cook. So I'd go out and grab a meal. And I would spend $300 to $400 a month just on my going out for a meal. Okay. And, this is just absolutely stupid. But it is what I chose to do. Now, can I possibly, if I were to try and blame you, any one of you guys for it, would that hold any water for you? Anybody here, anybody out there willing to actually take responsibility for my stupid choice? Okay. The law of attraction says what you put your effort into is what you're going to get back. I put my effort into spending money in a restaurant, and they were quite accommodating. They were quite accommodating in taking my money and bringing me decent food. Decent food, decent service. So all in all, it was a fair exchange. Was it dense on my part? You bet. Especially looking at in today's world. Now, every one of you, I suspect, has a situation where you have put off doing something that you know should have been done before. Okay. That you just put it off and waited for something to change. Tell me, how did that work for you? I've been waiting for the world to change in a positive fashion for, frankly, well, I started pulling away from people when I was born, but I got real carried away with it when I got into my 20s. So realistically, I've spent 40 years sitting on my tail feathers waiting for the world to change in a positive fashion without us doing our part and stepping out and telling people there is an option other than fear, other than blaming the world. Because when we start pointing a finger at everybody else, what we're manifesting, what we are attracting to us, is other people turning around and blaming us for their problems. And I've had that happen to me firsthand, as many of you have. Okay, anybody out there had the situation where somebody turned around and went, "It's your fault my life left me," or "It's your fault I lost my job." Okay, "It's your fault I'm broke." It frankly isn't. Now, of course, this is just the way I look at it. I am not perfect by any means. Okay, and like I told my other half, we were talking and, she's got her hiccups, I got my hiccups. And she made the comment one day, she goes, "I'm not perfect." I looked at her and I went, "No, you're not, but you are perfect for me." Okay, because that is just the way it is for me. And we take a look at the world and we go, the law of attraction, people are misguided into believing this only means positive things. It means whatever you're putting your effort into, whatever you're focusing on, that is what you're attracting. If you're focusing on poverty, you're attracting poverty. Now, whatever you do, let's not be silly here, shall we? If you don't have the funding, okay, starting to live beyond your means is a bad idea. Okay, it does not work well. So from that end, it's very much an issue of taking a look at the world and going, what are we going to do with this? Okay, what are we going to do with the world we're living in? Are we going to continue attracting negativity, fear, war, famine, shortages across the world? Are we going to continue attracting that by posting all of the negative things and virtually none of the positive ones? Or are we going to choose to start attracting the positive changes? Okay, by sharing things of a positive nature. I would love it if what I was seeing up on the front page, on Facebook, because today the social media is the big thing, not not the the major news moguls. But I would love it if I were to one day wake up and turn on Facebook or any of the other social media, and instead of it showing this person ripped off this person shot that one, we got a war here, we got embezzlement going on here, so and so is, I'm showing you this to embarrass so and so. I would rather turn on, and maybe I'm a little naive here, maybe I'm a lot naive, but I would rather turn on any one of these social medias and go, so and so got married, so and so got a promotion, so and so helped put this and build this place after there was a disaster. So and so rescued these animals. Why not have that scrolling down the screen in front of you? Okay, instead of, oh, let's see who we can embarrass. Let's see who's been hurt. I'm telling you, posting what is hurting people does not make you feel better. But it does attract that kind of negative thinking. Okay, which is one of the reasons why I quit dealing with it. At this point, I am looking at it this way. We have to turn around. Well, technically, we don't have to. Okay, technically, we can leave the world the way it is. It will tear itself to pieces just like it did before. Okay, but as a friend of mine was putting it the other day, just on Thursday, okay, people refer to the Dark Ages, and how it was so much simpler. It was, but like he said, what they don't realize is they had no health care, no indoor running, no internal plumbing. They had no heat. They had no nutrition at all to speak of. They had disease rampant all over the place. This was the reality behind the Dark Ages. Not that it was a simpler life. It was a lot harder. Talk to your own grandparents, or some of you may be in that boat, that you remember what they called the dirty 30s. Okay, when things really went sour for society. Okay, we've got a choice. We can continue down the road we're going down right now, or we can start utilizing the law of attraction to draw a much more positive outcome. The reality is that the choice is yours which way you want to go with it. Now I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the struggle. I'm tired of watching people struggle and knowing that if I had the finances or if I had the backing, those struggles wouldn't be there anymore. And yes, that sounds rather high on my end, but understand, I go back 10 years, I did have a surplus, and I was doing just that. This is not a question of, oh, I'll say something because it sounds really good. It's a question of, this is the way I've always lived my life. Sadly, I didn't pay much attention to my own life, which is what caused a lot of my current problems. But it's time to start looking. If you're sitting there, hey Carl, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality is, if you stay focused on the negative things that are going on, if you continue to propagate those, the law of attraction boils down to, you put that out, the law of attraction is going to draw it back to you. Okay, if you're fishing and you throw chum out, you're going to draw sharks back. Okay, if you're hoping to catch other type of fish, I got news for you. The sharks are quite happy to eat them. Now don't get me wrong. Sharks have their place. Personally, I think it's in the water. I love the fact that a number of years ago, I watched a medical report. It took the brightest minds in the world to figure out that the majority of shark attacks on humans happen in shallow waters. And I'm thinking, how could it take you 3 years to figure this out? I look at it going, where do you think the people were? There's not a lot of people swimming around in the deep ocean. They just don't stay out there without a boat very well. But the law of attraction is whatever you focus on, good, bad, or ugly, that is what you are going to draw to you. Okay. And just because of the fact that I look at it that way, do I have my preferences between good, bad, and ugly? Certainly. Not too terribly worried about the non-ugly, except in a relationship. Good and the bad, definitely prefer the good. But when we are focusing on things, when you talk about what you want to happen, what you're actually doing is you're turning around and saying, what the universe hears rather, is I desire to experience a lack of whatever it is you're aiming at. Okay. You notice I've talked, if you've watched me at all, I've talked about changing my wardrobe. Now, if the thought if it's the thought that counts, my wardrobe should have been changed a long time ago. It's amazing though, I've thought about it a lot and not one shirt has been replaced. It's just weird that way. I don't know. You guys figure it out? This is one of those things that we're looking at. The law of attraction does not mean think about it, it happens. Although I will tell you, 50,000 years ago, that was how it happened. But we've forgotten those techniques. Okay, we don't recall them at this point. But what I do recall from that time is that when we were coming out of that period, we got bored. And we found that creating things is an absolute positive thing. Mr. L, I'm glad you managed to join us. I'm taking your day has been going well, although apparently a little on the hectic side. This is a time for all of us to really bond together and go, okay, what can we do to help each other? What concepts can we share of a positive nature that we can make things happen? Now, just because we're winding things down here, we're in the last few minutes. I'm just going to go over here. Like I said, I keep this little calendar because it helps keep my thoughts straight. Right. And yeah, it's a big calendar, but I write a lot of things on it. But today we're dealing with the law of attraction. Tomorrow, and this is really directed at you, IJ, we are going to be dealing with orbs. On Wednesday, we will be covering healing modalities, not only what they are, but the similarities between them. Okay. And then on Friday, because I won't be here on Thursday, on Friday, we're going to look at what is beyond the white light. And no, I'm not planning on dying between now and then again. Been there, done that, got the ball cap, got the t-shirt. And rest assured, that's the only way I'm getting the ball cap. Okay. But I will tell you this. The fact that you guys are here at all, is just absolutely amazing from my end. And I really do appreciate it. So again, if you did like the stream, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up. And absolutely give, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and then share the daylights out of the thing. Because we've got to get this message out to people that that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. And this is done. This is absolutely done by the law of attraction, by putting it out there that this is what we are changing. Okay. Now, I will be back again tomorrow, but until then, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your time and absolutely for the input. Now, that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Until we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.